Welcome. Today, we're going to build a kind of mental toolkit, one that will help you start thinking like an economist. We're going to dive into the core ideas that shape, well, pretty much everything, from your own daily choices to major global policies.
So let's start with a question. Think about your daily commute, how you get to work or school. Now think about a government figuring out its entire annual budget. One of these seems tiny and personal. The other is just massive and incredibly complex. But what if I told you they're both driven by the exact same problem?
Yep, that's right. The choice you make between taking the bus or calling a rideshare and a nation's decision on where to spend its tax dollars. They're both shaped by a single, inescapable reality.
And that reality is scarcity. It's a simple, powerful idea. We have limited resources, things like our time, our money, you name it. But our wants, they're pretty much unlimited. We just can't have it all. And that is the central problem that forces us and entire countries to make choices.
Which brings us right here. At its core, economics is the science of scarcity. It's really just the study of how all of us, you, me, businesses, governments, try to cope with that one fundamental problem. It's all about choices.
So since every choice we make means giving something else up, how do we actually measure the true cost of a decision? This is the first really powerful tool in our economic toolkit. And let me tell you, it goes way beyond just the price tag.
This is such a key distinction. See, an accountant usually looks at the explicit costs. That's the actual money you spend. But an economist sees a much bigger picture. They see the explicit costs plus the value of what you had to give up. We call this the opportunity cost. It's the value of the very next best thing you didn't choose.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine you're a student for one 4-month semester. The explicit costs are the obvious things: tuition, fees, maybe some extra living costs. That adds up to 72,000 taka. But what are you giving up to study? Well, your next best option was probably a job, right? And let's say that job would have paid you 72,000 taka over those same 4 months. That lost income is your implicit cost.
So you see what happens here? When we add the explicit cost, the money you paid out, to the implicit cost, that salary you gave up, the total economic cost of that semester is actually 144,000 taka. That's double what you see on the bill. It's a perfect example of how every choice has a hidden trade-off.
Now, our next tool builds right on top of this idea of trade-offs. It's called thinking on the margin. Basically, instead of making huge all-or-nothing decisions, rational people think incrementally. They weigh the costs and benefits of doing just a little bit more or a little bit less.
Think about studying. That first hour you study for a test, it gives you a huge boost in understanding. The second hour helps, sure, but maybe a little less. The third hour? Even less. That extra benefit you get from each additional hour is what we call the marginal benefit, and you'll find it often goes down over time.
And on the other side of the coin, you've got marginal cost. This is the extra cost of producing just one more unit. So for this factory, making that first item costs an extra 1,000 taka. The second one, only 800 more. But look, by the fourth one, the marginal cost starts climbing again. The rule for making a rational choice is simple. You only do something if the marginal benefit is greater than or equal to the marginal cost.
So here's the big takeaway. When you're deciding, should I do one more of something, you totally ignore the average cost of everything you've done so far. The only thing that matters is the cost and benefit of that next single step.
Okay, so we've got these tools for making decisions. Now let's zoom out. How do all of our individual choices, the ones we make for our own reasons, add up to shape the entire economy?
Most of the time, we're all acting in our own self-interest. You choose a certain job, you buy a coffee, you save some money. You do these things because you believe it's the best option available for you in that moment.
But then there's the social interest. This is about what's best for everyone, for society as a whole. And it really has two parts: efficiency, which means we're not wasting our scarce resources, and fairness, which is all about how the economic pie gets divided up.
And this leads us to one of the biggest, most fascinating questions in all of economics. When millions of us are all acting in our own self-interest, does that magically lead to an outcome that's good for society as a whole? Or do these two powerful forces end up clashing with each other?
Ultimately, this dance between self-interest and the social interest is what answers three fundamental questions for any society anywhere in the world. What stuff actually gets made? How does it get made? And who gets to have it? The how part is answered by these four factors of production: land,
labor, capital, and that special spark of entrepreneurship. And the income each of these factors earns, rent for land, wages for labor, and so on, well, that pretty much determines for whom all that stuff is ultimately produced.
Okay, time for our final tool, and this one is crucial. When we talk about these big economic questions, it is so easy for facts and opinions to get all tangled up. This tool is going to help you pull them apart.
Here's the difference, and it's a big one. A positive statement describes what is. It's a claim about facts, about cause and effect, that we can actually go out and test with data. But a normative statement, that describes what ought to be. It's a value judgment, an opinion, and you can't prove it right or wrong with data.
All right, let's try a quick quiz. What about this statement? The minimum wage should be raised. See that word should? That is your big clue. It's telling you what to do based on a value. That makes it a normative statement. It's an opinion.
Okay, how about this one? This is a claim about a relationship between two things. We could actually go and look at employment data to see if it's true or false. Because it's testable, it's a positive statement, and that's true whether the statement itself is correct or not. One last one. See that phrase, ought to? That's our signal again. It's an argument about what policy is good or fair or desirable. This is squarely in the world of normative economics. It's a debate about values.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Thinking like an economist doesn't mean you have all the answers, not at all. It means you understand the trade-offs. It means you think on the margin. And maybe most importantly, it means you can tell the difference between a testable question about how the world actually works and a debate about how we wish it would work. And let me tell you, that is a genuine superpower for understanding just about anything.